Hello students, today we will start with our first topic, that is PN junction. A PN junction actually a combination of two semiconductors, that is P type semiconductor and N type semiconductor. So we will first go through what are P and what are N type semiconductors. We have two semiconductor materials. We actually have two semiconductor materials. Okay, we have germanium and silicon. These are two semiconductor materials available. When we insert impurities to these semiconductor materials, impurities mean when we start doping to these semiconductor materials, we add impurities to these semiconductor materials. These semiconductor materials then turned into these semiconductor material then turned into either P type semiconductor material, which can be made up of germanium or silicon, or N type semiconductor material, which can be either germanium or silicon. We can choose any semiconductor material, it can be either germanium or silicon. So we have actually add impurities to these semiconductor materials, and these semiconductor materials then changed into P type semiconductor material and N type semiconductors materials. Now what are P type semiconductor material? If we are adding a trivalent impurity to these semiconductor materials, then a P type semiconductor will be formed. Okay, when we add a trivalent impurity which is deficient of electrons, then a P type semiconductor material will be formed. When we add pentavalent impurity to these semiconductor materials which are having excess of electrons, then N type semiconductor materials will be formed. Okay, so we have two types of impurities, that is trivalent impurity and pentavalent impurity. If we add trivalent, then P type semiconductor materials will be formed, and if we add pentavalent impurity, then N type semiconductor materials will be formed. Now what are trivalent impurities and what are pentavalent impurities? Trivalent impurities available as boron, aluminum, gallium, indium and thallium, etc. So these are the trivalent impurities that are available to add into these semiconductor materials. Now what are pentavalent impurities? That is phosphorus, arsenic, antimony and bismuth. So these are trivalent impurities and these are pentavalent impurities. When we add trivalent impurity, a P type semiconductor material will be formed. When we add pentavalent impurity having excess of electrons, then N type semiconductor material will be formed. Among these trivalent impurities, we add mostly indium as impurity atoms, or maybe gallium as impurity atom. In pentavalent impurity atom, we add mostly as arsenic or antimony. So these are the mostly added trivalent and pentavalent impurities to make P type and N type semiconductors. Now we will go through the definition of this PN junction. We have actually made a P type semiconductor and a N type semiconductor by adding impurities from germanium or silicon. When we combine these two semiconductor materials, when we join these two semiconductor materials, which results into, for example, if we have this a p-type semiconductor. In p-type semiconductor we have maximum holes. Okay, we have maximum holes present and few electrons. In n-type semiconductor we have maximum electron and only few holes. Now when we join these two types of semiconductor materials, a p-n junction will be formed. So a p-n junction will be formed like this when we join these two semiconductor material. Here we have p, here we have n-type, and p have maximum holes and n has maximum electrons and few holes here and few electrons here. So when we join these two semiconductor materials, p and n-type semiconductor material, this is known as p-n junction. Here a junction is formed in between both these semiconductor materials, which is known as p-n junction. So this is our p-n junction or p-n junction diode, we can say. Now we will go through the basics of p-n junction. A p-n junction is a metallurgical boundary between an n and p regions of a semiconductor crystal. So what is p-n junction? P-n junction is a junction actually which divide both these semiconductor material. So it is actually a boundary between these two semiconductor materials. Now p-n junction consists of two semiconductor region of opposite type. As we have just discussed, we have in p-n junction we have two semiconductor materials that is our opposite type. That means we have one p-type and another we have n-type semiconductor material. So when we join these two, such junctions show a pronounced rectifying behavior, and these p-n junctions are actually used for rectifying as a rectifier. So these p-n junction can be used as a rectifier. These are also called as p-n diode and in analogy with vacuum diodes. Okay, now p-n junction is a versatile element which can be used as a rectifier, as an isolation structure, and as a voltage dependent capacitor. So these are the applications of the p-n junction. It can be used as a rectifier, isolation structure. Isolation structure mean it only allow a unidirectional current flow and do not allow a backward current to flow through it. So it isolate the structure from other, isolate the electronic structure from other electronic system. It is a voltage dependent capacitor. So it is a voltage dependent device. So it can also be said like that, it is a voltage dependent capacitor, as p-n junctions are of various types and diode has various classification. Among those diode, one diode can be used as a voltage dependent capacitor, and in addition to this they can be used as solar cells, photodiodes, light emitting diodes. As I told you, there are numerous kinds of diodes available. These can be photodiode, light emitting diode, even pin diode, gun diode, that is Schottky diode, varactor diode. So numerous types of diode available in the market. They are also as an essential part of metal oxide silicon field effect transistors. Now we actually, when we say that diode is a combination of two semiconductor material, okay, that is p and n. So this is a diode made up of two semiconductor material. When we have three different types of semiconductor materials, that we have p, we have n and p. If we have p, n and p, there will be two junctions formed, and this device which has having three different semiconductor materials, it is p, it is n, so three different types of semiconductor materials and two junction, this is known as a transistor. So a transistor can be a field effect transistor, that is MOSFET, that is metal oxide field effect transistor, or and we can also say that it is bipolar junction transistor. So we will study the different types of transistors also. So when there are two diode we are using, It is known as PN junction diode when we are using three different types of semiconductor materials and we join them, two junctions will be formed, then a transistor will be formed. Now we will move towards how a PN junction actually results and how the different types of depletion layers will be formed. This is a semiconductor. As we have just discussed that semiconductor is made up of p-type and n-type semiconductor material. Here we have a semiconductor material. This is a p region and this is a n region. Okay, p region has maximum holes and n region will be have maximum electrons. Now as we have, let this is p region and this is n region. P region will be have maximum hole, that is those are positively charged, and n region will be have electrons, that is negatively charged. Now due to high concentration of holes in p region, some of the holes will start drifting towards the n region, and due to the high concentration of electrons in n region, the electrons will start drifting towards the p region. Okay, as the holes is drifted from p region to n region, as the hole is drifted from p region to n region, this is a hole, it is drifted from p region to n region. When it moves towards the n region, there will be a deposition of positive charge. As positive charge move to the n region, positive charge along the junction, and as the electron, this negatively charged electron is drifted toward the p region, a negatively charged region will be formed in the p region. So a positively charged region is formed in between this p-n junction. This region which is formed is known as depletion region. This region is known as depletion region. So p region has maximum holes, but depletion region has here electrons. Here n region has maximum electrons, but this depletion layer has holes. So this depletion layer actually has a opposite charged ions with respect to the region. So this depletion layer actually opposes the current to pass through the diode. It actually opposes the current to pass through the diode. It blocks the current through the diode. Now as we applied a potential battery, then this depletion layer start reducing. As we applied a voltage across this PN diode, this depletion region start decreasing, and the times come but it totally vanishes. Now in the next lecture we will study the significance of this depletion region and the biasing of semiconductor. Okay, thank you.